Hi, in this week's edition of Screen Talk, we speak with film producer Rebecca Harris, whose debut short film, The Silent Child, won an Oscar for Best Short Film in 2017. We talk about this amazing achievement at such an early stage in Rebecca's career and the challenges of building on this reputation and forging a future career in film.
Without further ado, would you give a very warm Bradford welcome to Rebecca Harris? Rebecca, welcome to Bradford. You've been to Haworth before, but you've not been to Bradford.
Yeah, Haworth of all places a couple of times.
Yeah, I like when you say Haworth.
Yeah, sorry.
In Bradford,
I say Keighley instead of Keighley.
So in Bradford, we dropped the H, Haworth. Can you say that? Haworth. There we go. Haworth. So it was in 2017. A deaf 6-year-old girl named Libby lives in a world of silence until a caring social worker teaches her to use sign language to communicate. And from there, gosh, it went on to win an Oscar, Best Short in 2018.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we never expected that. It all came from Rachel Shenton, who wrote and acted as a lead part in it, because she had, I think it would have been 15 years advocating for the deaf community before this short film came about. And she just kind of wrote it up quickly one day on her iPad in her bedroom.
Really?
And then sent it to Chris, who's now her husband, who directed the film.
Right.
And he's who I worked with for a few years. So since 2014, I worked at a company called Slick Showreels, which is now Slick Films, because we were working on showreels kind of daily for new actors to help them get jobs in the industry, basically, get in the room for auditions. And he just sent me a really simple email saying, tell us what you think of the script and we'd like you to produce it. And bearing in mind, I'd only graduated University of Film Production a few years before, and I'd worked on showreels and a few music videos. It's not the best experience really, but we were all in a similar position, and it was our first, other than the DOP, I'd say, it's our first kind of professional short.
Right.
And it was not made in the right way. I've learned since on other projects I've done since, it was not made in the right way that you're meant to make a film. But I'm not sure if it would have won an Oscar if we hadn't done it in that way, because it was very much everything went out the window. We just all worked for free and just thought about the story.
Wow.
And,
well, we're going to unpick a little bit of that, if you don't mind. But did you know, from reading the script, did you have a good feeling that this was something? Was there a passion to tell the story, or was there something that was like, this is really something that I want to show the world, really?
Yeah, I think it was passion for telling the story. It very much felt, just because of where I was at the time, it felt like if you worked on lots of feature films before this point, you might be in a position to get sent something like this. And to be sent it at that point, I felt very fortunate and just like, of course, I've got to help just in any way. And I wasn't even thinking, I was just like, even to help, but it became very much like I was suddenly producing it alongside. I would say Rachel and Chris produced it as well, but they're very much leading it. And Julie Foy, who's down as associate, she was producing it as well. So it was definitely a team effort.
But were you aware before you read that script of the plight of many deaf children?
No, I wasn't.
Right.
No, I really wasn't. And it opened my eyes to that, and the facts at the end hit me like it does hopefully when people watch a film.
It hit me.
When I read the script, that really opened my eyes, and I think as soon as you see that, it's very easy to become passionate about it.
Yeah. And we'll come on to the Oscar moment in a minute, because obviously that, I want to hear your kind of reaction and stuff. But where did your journey start in film then? Did you say you studied at university, did you do a film degree?
Yeah, so it's film production, and my final year was in producing, so I had worked out, because I think initially I had no idea I wanted to produce, it was just more working it out. So I did some sound recording, I did some camera work, and kind of made a effort to go in all areas and directed a bit as well. And I really couldn't work it out, and I just realised I loved the process from beginning to end, and I loved being a part of everything, so I think that's why it's kind of happened naturally. But I never sought it, I just kind of fitted into it along the way. So yeah, that was at the University of West London. I did film production, and and I graduated and really struggled to get anything in the film industry for about a year. Worked I volunteered for a place called Media Trust in a day. Then at night I was working in Sainsbury's for a year while I was just interviewing, and then it was someone from uni who introduced me to the owner of Slick Showreels, so it wasn't a film company at that point, but it was a chance where I got to write, edit and do a bit of everything again and get paid for it, so it was just like, that was really rare. So I joined that, and it started off, initially I wasn't getting paid, and then I did more and more, and then I was sent a short, and then it just all kicked off from there, so it's grown very quickly as well.
Wow. What sort of whet the appetite for the production side of things? Producer rather than filmmaker, director?
I did, I mean, I would say that I only learned for sure actually doing it afterwards and realising, oh, I had no idea you had to do that, I had no idea that was part of the job. I didn't know much about festivals, but it definitely gave me a broad knowledge, and it gave me the tools, and it got me in the right area at the time for, but it definitely whet the appetite, because I was extremely passionate at university, of just starting out, and I think all those elements, like, as I said, the camera work, sound, and all that kind of made me realise producing is actually where you can actually get sent an idea and help, where it's kind of up to you to bring it to screen in a way, and put it all together, and you really, and it doesn't end when a film's over, it can go on for years after the film's completed, and you know, so it did. I just think I definitely wouldn't be in a position I'm in now without university, but at the same time the biggest lessons probably came afterwards for me, with actually going out and getting thrown in the deep end.
Okay. So, I mean, going back to the sort of the prescribed route often for filmmakers, and what we would tell people at the sort of beginning of their career generally is, you make a series of short films and you get them into film festivals. Hopefully you win a bit of peer review and maybe you'll win the odd prize, which will then give you the sort of confidence and possibly some of the opportunity to raise finance to make a feature film, and then again go through the festival circuit, or if you're fortunate enough to get commissioned by BBC Films or Film 4. But you made a short that won an Oscar, the first film that you've been involved in. So is that kind of is it a blessing? Is it a double-edged sword? Is there an expectation from you and the people that you work with that they've won an Oscar? You know, is the expectation so high after that? Or is it a fantastic calling card that doors just open for you?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of both probably, because I suppose you have got the pressure there in certain respects. I don't know if some people reach out because they think if you're on board you'll win an Oscar for them or something. And that kind of pressure, so, but I'm always very upfront, like, you know, it's always to do with the entire team, and you know, and it should never be the aim. I'm really passionate about that. I just think it's about telling the story in the right way. Yeah, but it definitely opened up doors. I think we've got in rooms with people that we never usually get in rooms with afterwards, and you are getting people who are interested, because we are looking to make a feature film now about the deaf community, not following on from Maisie's story necessarily, but in a deaf community, and that's had a lot of interest, and you're getting in rooms with people, but again, it's not something we want to rush, and the pressure is very much like you're being asked about it all the time. Rachel, the writer, is all the time, and so I think it's better sometimes to have a bit of space without the pressure to actually tell a story that's your story and not what, you know, people kind of expect. I think it's more a blessing than anything though. There's not many negatives. We're very lucky.
And it's not going to go away, is it? You know, you're kind of in it. You're in it for life. Like, you've got the Oscar, you've got the gong, so that is a calling card that you can come. And it's only it was March 2018, right?
Yes.
So I don't think there is any rush to clamber to do something that's kind of substandard, or that you're not completely.
And we want to learn more as well. It's also, as I said, it's in a bit of an unusual respect that The Silent Child was our first go at it really professionally, and we want to learn more before we jump into a feature. We want to make more shorts. I certainly do. I'm trying to make as much as possible. Yeah. I'm still learning how to produce properly.
I think we are. Everyone's still learning. It's good to do that. Not just to think, we've got. Yes, it must be very tempting to be quite, not smug, but let me go to the point of where you realised you were going to be. So the way it works, there's lots of film festivals that are where people can be nominated to go into the pot that becomes voted on as an Oscar film. So at what point did you suddenly realise, oh my God, there's a chance here?
I think that was probably the Oscar shortlist. You get a shortlist before the nominations, and we got. It was just we didn't realise that was public information, so we kind of found out from other people before we knew. When I checked my emails, I was like, oh right, because they sent it through. Obviously, it's America. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night for us or something. We just saw it on a list, and we're like, right, what's happening? Fine, that's great, and we were celebrating that like it wouldn't go further, obviously, because you just don't think of that. And
well, to be honest, Oscar nominated carries quite a lot of weight.
it does, yeah, but that was a stage after the shortlist, so the shortlist was already a lot of weight to us, and that's just kind of the Oscars suddenly saying it was also even, I think, the first festival we won, Rhode Island, so that's even before the shortlist. We won the Grand Jury Prize, and that was the first time it had ever been shown. It was the first time we realised other people kind of believe in it too, because I think you do get into this space where you haven't been in that experience before, where you think it's just your film and you're the only ones that kind of care about it as much as you do, but then when you've suddenly shown it, actually other people think it's pretty good. That was quite an eye-opener thing. So that was one of the biggest experiences actually for me, the Rhode Island win, and then from there it kind of just spiralled very quickly, but yes.
And what about that Oscar moment then, when that envelope opens and, you know...
Yeah,
there must be no other feeling like it, I can't imagine.
Yeah, no, it's nothing like it at all. And I think there was a lot of... because there was a film called DeKalb Elementary, I don't know if you know of that one, about shootings in America, and that was quite prevalent at the time, it just went, so there was a lot of talk about that one, and we thought that was amazing. And we were quite convinced that all Watty were, I mean, all of them, to be honest, when we think about it, we're like, oh, it's definitely going to be any of those. We're not us. So, of course, when they actually say it, but you just kind of freeze, don't you? And there's Rachel and Chris, who's the writing director, they led it, so they're the ones that went up on stage, and we get to sit there, but it's still terrifying just sitting there. So I don't know how they got up and did that, and then Rachel signed while she spoke as well, the speech, so so that was, I can't really describe it, it doesn't really feel like it happened, if I'm honest, and when you get back you feel like it was just a bit of a weird...
But the news coverage back home was quite immense.
Yeah, we missed that, so we just heard about
National
it, and apparently...
regional news.
Yeah, we didn't notice that, but we got some messages going, it's on the news everywhere, so it did get around. I think that's a lot to do with just, obviously Rachel's background with the deaf community. I think it's the authenticity of the story, amazing, the little girl in it as well, so I think it's...
Who was deaf?
Yes, yeah. Her family are deaf as well, so I think she's gone off to Taiwan, is it Deaf Film Festival just now? Saw some pictures, she just sent us some pictures when she's off there, so it's still going on for her, but...
And a question about the film itself then, again, and apologies if you haven't seen it, but you can catch it online in many places, haven't you? Because it's beautifully set, it's really well shot, and it's set in the autumn, and it's in the English countryside, there's no leaves on the trees, there's fog. Was it intentionally done at that time of year, or is that the only time you could make it?
No, it wasn't intentional.
Okay.
Nothing about it was intentional. Right. We just shot when we finally had enough money, we thought, to go ahead and film it.
Right.
We had a lot of Americans ask us when we were over there, how did we get the fog? And it's just Britain. It's market driven at that time of year.
But I think it's so much part of the charm of the film, because there's a melancholy feel to it because of the autumn, because it's not golden autumn, there's no leaves on the trees, it's late autumn, there's fog, there's puddles that you drive
through. It looks like an act of decision, I think, which is nice. I
kind of preempted that you were going to say that about Americans, you know, that you sort of filter the fog in. So it wasn't intentional.
It wasn't, no. I think they thought it's very expensive getting the fog.
And you know, so that's 2018, and now you're kind of like on it full time. And there's been a couple of shorts since, hasn't there? Are you currently? I was confused whether or not these have come out yet with A Glimpse and Stand Still.
They're just about to. So I've got a short coming out, Rain Dance. So that's the 26th and 27th of this month.
And is
And the
that,
opening was last night.
is that Stand Still?
That's a glimpse.
Okay,
So that's
can you tell us a
actually,
bit about that?
yeah, so that's got a lot of the team to do with the Silent Child behind it, but it's very small. It's just made on £4,000. It's like a micro budget. So it's one that me and my partner who directed it just made kind of on the odd weekend here and there, because we filmed it over 2 years just to show the passing of time, because it's shown a relationship and over a couple of years. And Rachel and Chris, so the writing director of the Silent Child, are acting in it.
Right.
So it's very much a Friends thing again, and the DOP of the Silent Child DOP'd it. So yeah, it was it's very small budget wise, but we just I'm very proud of it and quite excited about the opening of it. But it's just a long time coming. There came a time where we were just thinking, is this ever gonna get released? Just because we were trying to, it's just getting us all free at the same time. So it's literally as soon as we're free, we'll go quickly. Or as soon as a bit of snow came about, because we wanted to get the different seasons, we'd rush out and film, just all get together. So it's very much like pick up the phone and go, let's go. And we only had one day that had a big crew, and the rest was literally just 4 people. So it's done in a very odd way. So it's just a DOP. 5 people, I'm missing me out. Yeah. So DOP, actors, director, and me. Yeah.
And are you finding though that it's easier to get screenings? That it's easier because of the Oscar, that you can go with this is our follow up. Are you classing it as a follow up, or is it a project sort of in between what's coming next?
Well, yeah, because I've got a few coming out, so a few follow-ups. But I don't. It's hard to say if it's easier, because we kind of struggled with the Silent Child even, and I suppose it's after the Oscar you'd expect. But we've definitely got contacts now who I guess would love to hear about it. But it's not a good element for a producer to have, but I like kind of getting into things because people like it and not use it. I get a bit shy about using festival contacts and things like that. I'd rather not go, because you know me, can you? So
really?
Yeah, I actually really struggle with it, and Chris says I need to get over that and just.
I think you do need to get over that.
But I can't. I have loads of trouble with that.
You sort of exploit it. Yeah,
I'm not too good at that yet. But
short form seems to be very on trend at the moment. So the Channel 4 Digital Academy, there's a lot of excitement in West Yorkshire about Channel 4 relocating part of its operation to Leeds, and Bradford's very much part of that story. And they are very much talking about the future and about short form. Like we passed the big screen when we came through, and on the big screen we would only ever really put shorts on there, because it literally takes you 2 minutes to walk through the square, and I think you can tell the story in short. And I think in terms of a lot of people's, especially young people, if this is not meant to be offensive anyway, but the concentration span of many people, not just young people, seems to lean towards short form. And I've noticed as well, TV stuff, some of the Netflix stuff now, instead of being an hour, it's 40 minutes, some of it's 35 minutes. If you look at the end of the effing world, were they like 20 minutes long?
I did see it,
Yeah. So do you think short form is on trend?
Yeah, I think so, and I think I can't see me ever wanting to stop making shorts as well. I think lots of people sometimes go, fed up with them, but I think there's something just entirely different even to a feature. You can tell stories in such a different way, and it can hit you in such a different way. Because I do get drawn to films that have some kind of message behind them. That can be in a shot or just a camera movement or a line of dialogue or something. But I just think, I think short films have this kind of unique way of presenting stories and messages, and sometimes, I love features as well, of course, but I just don't think they'll ever go out of fashion, short films. If that's
and if anything, I think the popularity probably it seems to be increased in my view. As I said at the start, it's the Smart Film Festival starting tonight, and it runs all weekend. So I just watched 37 films of this week, which many of them were short, and 15 of them were only 1 minute. And there's a real skill to that, I think.
Yes.
Have you ever dabbled in the sort of micro short? Because to tell a story in a minute.
I'd love to, yeah. That's very challenging. I'm working on one, I'm in pre-production one at the moment, that's 5 minutes, but that's probably the shortest one I've done. And it's tough, but it's really exciting. But I think it was Encounters, I saw a few that were they have a 1 minute kind of awards branch, and that was incredible. But I just don't. It's very much for the writer and director to condense it into that more than, for me it must be more challenging for them than for the producer.
And at the Galway Film Flag each year, I'm not obsessed with 1 minute films, but at the Galway Film Flag they have a 1 minute section and they show 30 films. So in half an hour, the time you're being sat here, you'll have watched 30 films. And when you see them back to back, then you really do realise the good from the bad. So one of them might just be slapstick, a funny thing, someone walks in and falls over, and it makes you sort of laugh or it doesn't. Then in amongst that, you can just tell they're really bad ones, because they just don't move you, they don't do anything. And so I think there is a skill there to being able to condense it into 1 minute. So for you, now, at your stage in your career, what would you say is the biggest challenge? Is it the money thing? Because often the main thing that seems to stop people from being able to progress is whether or not they have come from a background where perhaps they know about money, or whether they've been fortunate enough to. Is financing this kind of thing the biggest challenge, do you think?
Yeah, I think it always is, to be honest. I suppose it has become easier in a way just because we've got this accreditation, but not as easy as you'd think. I think there's still struggles and there's still, it's just people parting with their money, I guess. But I think it's also, I'm talking about the challenges for me at the moment. I feel, because we're in a fortunate position, I think, for the future. If we wanted to make a feature, I feel a bit more positive about that. And with shorts, we've got, we're getting in room now, whereas we couldn't with the Silent Child, and we were new filmmakers. So it's more, I'd say the challenge is probably more of someone who's, again, if we weren't allowed to make the Silent Child, then that would have never been told. And there's other filmmakers out there who've got brilliant stories, who, probably have these massive barriers who just can't. And it's not that easy to crowdfund either. That was terrifying. It was one of the hardest things we've ever done.
Yeah, so so crowdfunding, and again, I'm sure everyone knows it, just in case you do it, crowdfunding is where you would put, there's loads of sites on the web now where you can sort of crowdsource and ask people to put £5, £50, £50,000 into it, and is it still the case that you would reward them by either giving them a credit or depending on what they put on, or they can come to the premiere?
I think we said we'd send them a pizza. That worked the best, that one.
And so, has crowdfunding, because it was really, again, it was on trend, but it was a few years back now. Has it died a death, you think?
I haven't actually done any other crowdfunding things, but filmmaker friends of mine do it constantly and have successful runs, but there's also filmmaker friends who it just stands still and nothing happens, and it's a brilliant idea. So I think you still need the connections in a way to get the word out there, to spread it around. That's the issue, and I think we were lucky because of Rachel's background. Again, she had the whole deaf community behind her who got out there. But even with that, it was very hard, and it was like every day we get so excited, we get a notification that someone's given £5, or that. And it's building up, and when you think it's only 10,000, it seems a bit ridiculous in the grand scheme of things. But
£10,000 is still a lot of money to a
yeah,
lot of people.
Yeah.
It always surprised me that people would part with their money. You get people asking you to sponsor them for the Great North Run or whatever it might be, but to say, will you part with 50 quid to make my film? Well, people do, don't they?
Yeah.
It's slightly political, not really political with a big P, but in terms of the establishment, the British Film Institute, film funding in the UK. Have you had any joy with that, or do you think is there room for that?
So for like BFI or grants?
Yeah, so the BFI have got a film fund to be able to create new work, and have you approached them with now that you've got
I've co-produced, so I didn't approach them, but I co-produced one that was backed by the BFI, so I just did that. I haven't ever, through myself, approaching people. It's been more, I think I've gone more through connections of mine, and then they get me in touch with someone, and so people, I don't know if you've had generic forms and things like that, we did actually apply, as I say, with the BFI for the Silent Child and things like that, so again, but I think it's just the position we're in now. People will allow you to meet, but it's just not that easy. Those are so competitive, and even if you've got accreditations behind you, I think they have so many stories coming through that they can be picky. And so those institutes and the grants are one of the hardest routes to go through. And it is about building connections, unfortunately, which is hard as well. But I think my connections go back from even the people I meet at uni. They've become fundamental to future as well, because people check in and then they've made their own connect, and then suddenly you're helping each other out. So that's still definitely keep your uni friends in mind, because again, a lot has come about through me getting introduced to Slick, and also with festivals now we're helping each other out and getting.
And the networking is so important.
It is, yeah.
You know, even though it's a bit of sometimes a cringy word, that whole networking thing, but in this industry, I think creative industries in particular, it's so important that you, like you say, you keep contact with your old buddies that might be able to do you a favour in terms of even the graphics or designing some of the literature that might go with something. You know, it's so competitive, and I think that whole finance thing, it shouldn't stop people from trying to create stuff, but at the same time, kind of got to eat as well. You know?
Yes.
Do you think obviously there's an advantage to being in the capital? So there's another northern. It's not a chip on our shoulder by any means, but it takes us as long to get to London as it does for people to get from London to Bradford or don't always see it that way. And it's really, really difficult, I think, to have a career in film, especially, and live in the north. It's just really hard, which is probably why we haven't got that many production companies up here. I think less so in television. Have you been tempted by television at any point? So, you know, are there offers for television?
I haven't had any roads come up towards of television. I'm sure I would be if it did, but it hasn't been something I've looked into. It's been more the film route, but definitely be interested if that came about. I'm very much like I'd like to try and get involved in anything to do with, you know, particular stories, but I'm not even picky because I've got to learn a lot more yet. So yeah, I mean, as I said, with the Silent Child, it was not done correctly at all, but we all had about 5 jobs each. Like, we weren't just producing, we were all doing a bit of everything. And it's been on a project since then that I've learned, okay, it's a lot more of a system that's meant to take place, so I wish I knew that more at the time. So I suppose we're kind of going, I mean, the producer role is meant to be a bit of everything anyway, but I think when it was a point where it's usually really important for you to, as a producer, just be on side, on the shoot, being kind of near the director and watching all that, and whereas on the Silent Child I was running as well, getting people teas, coffees, trying to do that as well as when there was a problem going on, trying to sort that out, but all of us were doing that because it was such a small crew as well. It was probably about 12 people, so if you're looking for how we worked it out, we just did everything, all of us at the same time. But I'd say in terms of getting the crew together, so I'd say one of us would get the crew together, the other would get the camera equipment and get all that together and catering, and you try and work it out and that kind of thing. But whereas nowadays, I think you'd have a producer who's more trying to raise the funds as it going on, because often with shorts you're still trying to find the funds when you're shooting. So there's someone still trying to secure those deals while the other person's pulling the shoot together. The other person's lining up for post-production potentially, and that's if you've got the luxury of having 3 producers. But if you're just on your own, then you're kind of a bit more everything's on
Are
you.
you still working in collaboration with another producer now?
I'm working with different people now, so I know Rachel's written a few other shorts that we hope to get to me, and that'll probably be the same team. But I've worked with kind of a different producer from different companies, just trying to build connections at the same time and use Slick's resources to kind of combine it. And then, so it's kind of co-productions. A lot of co-productions at the moment, so helping out other production companies when they've got a great story similarly to us. So, I don't think I answered your question. So there's kind of A tier, B tier film festivals. So initially it's just about getting the premieres right. So the world premiere should be really at a qualifier. Again, even as I said, we're not too interested in awards, but it's kind of about getting in the qualifier initially for world premiere. And again, if you premiere in the USA, if it's somewhere small, then that kind of ruins your chances of getting into a bigger one because you've taken away a premiere. So it's all about the premieres for a while, and then you can just go everywhere. But at the same time, there's some lower tier festivals that are just amazing as well. We've had such brilliant experiences. We went to Bolton Film Festival. That was an incredible one. Its first year. Yeah, The Silent Child. That was its first festival year, and we showed them. That's one of our best experiences, at that festival. So it's it's definitely the funnest aspect of the festival circus. But you go for your premieres, and then you just kind of go everywhere you want. But it depends what your budget's like. But I always think it's quite important to have a big budget for festivals, because that's why you make it without wanting to show it everywhere. So. Yeah.
And I think it's a common mistake by lots of filmmakers at the start of their career to get me filming every film festival I can. And because you can go on Film Freeway now, you can submit to thousands. You could spend so much money submitting films to film festivals that, like you said, there's a real science behind it, and I think it's a really valuable tool to sort of research where you're going to put your stuff and how you're going to get the best out of the limited investment you might have.
Yeah, I think you can. What we did, we email ahead, kind of giving them a little bit of an idea of what the film's about, and some will say actually it's not that suited.
It's not for us.
Yeah, so then you save potentially like £50 or something for that festival, which goes a long way in a short budget. So it's just not being afraid to just check in and let people know, say you're interested to submit, but is this the right kind of film for you? Majority would say yes anyway, but we did get a couple that kind of said that actually we're more experimental wise, but
And in terms, can I just ask, in terms of, because again, when we spoke about this earlier, the shelf life, if you like, of the thing I love about film festivals, in the traditional manner of film festivals, before a lot of it went online, is that you would always see something that you would never see anywhere else, that it's not going to make it on TV. You'd see some foreign language film that might just completely blow you away, and that's the amazing thing when you discover. You sit through a lot of stuff that you probably don't like. I don't want to be derogatory, you can be. But it's very rare that a short film would then go online, for instance, and have the longevity that Silent Child has had. Has that been good at keeping the profile? And more importantly, does it make you any money in the end?
Yeah, I mean, shorts notoriously don't make money, but Silent Child's made it. I think it's probably because the budget was so low as well, but it's made a profit, so that's very rare. And it's still, we haven't put it online, so it's not, you still obviously have to pay like £1 or something to get it, but that's because it's still out there, still showing, and it's still festivals that won't ask us to screen it, so it's not quite run out of its shelf life out. Yeah, but again, extremely rare. You don't usually, when funders are coming to you you're talking to them about funding a short, it's not usually because they think they're going to get money back and trying to explain. So, but with the Silent Child, again, it was just the people who funded it were proud and people who just cared, and friends, family. So it's very different. But it's something that we can't get over because it's just still going on.
Well, it's not that long ago, is it? Really?
It feels like so long ago.
Does it?
Yeah.
But how do you separate yourself from a project in terms of looking after your own sort of mental health and what have you? Do you have a complete separation from work, like at the weekend? Do you have a strategy for kind of like standing back from it all and thinking, do you know what, forget about it?
I think, it is a difficulty. There's not really a cut-off point with me because I'm kind of wherever I want to be, so I can be in the office or I can be at home.
Yeah.
But I find myself at the office like sometimes at 10 o'clock at night, and at home I'm still on the laptop at 10, so it's hard to cut it off. I think about a month ago I got better at just cutting it off in the evenings, but now that I've got a few shorts on at the same time, it's just like, and when you're running a company in the middle, so it does carry on. So it's one of those things that you've got to be careful about putting all in because you'll just get ill and then you suddenly are burnt out and you can't do much. So it is something that I've actually learned, because obviously I think when you're younger, probably, I'm talking like I'm ancient, but early 20s, that's where I could stay up all night if I wanted to, but I just honestly can't do it. Like, I would just want to be able to work. So I think it's about cutting off, setting for the cut-off point. Mine's a bit later, so it's still like 7, but I tried to just stop and carry on. But if you've got a shoot at the weekend, that's probably, there'll be the odd week where you just can't do that and you have to take over. But I think at our work, we do workout systems, someone would take over on the daily things if they know they've got someone else as a project. So we've got a bit better as a team at dealing with that as well. So.
No, it's good, and it's an important consideration in this industry, because you could just work I know a lot of people that do just work round the clock and could just keep going to a point where they can't anymore because they burn out.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you take a sense check and
I think when you burn out, that could take a month out or so, you know, so it's just
Yeah,
even
it's
worse. So it's
counterproductive.
just, yeah, definitely.
But not to finish on a low point. I mean, that is hopefully that's a positive point. And congratulations, you are a university. You got what's your honorary degree?
So
Doctor of
just a
Letters.
doctorate, yeah, an honorary degree.
Brilliant. Congratulations on that. And do you have to do anything? Are you still associated with your university?
Yeah, I do a few bits just with, I just go into certain events. I'm not sure if I'm meant to be doing more actually,
I'm sure they tell you.
Yeah, but it's just an honouring thing. And again, when I went to the ceremony, there was students that have studied for it, so it just seems a bit of, I think, but it's a nice honour. And it's just mainly because I went to the university before, so they gave that after the Silent Child. So.
But would you join me in giving a really warm hand to Rebecca
Thank you.
Harris?